Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me. Haven't done that intro in a couple days. So I got a brand new What If for you. What if Deku had a magic quirk? And as always, if you guys enjoy, make sure to show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. And I don't want to waste that much more of your time. And I really want to get right into the What If. So make sure to check the links in the description and all that stuff. Links in the description for the Discord, the Spotify, and also the membership if you want to check that out as well. And all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoy. And let's get right into it. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya and his journey would truly start when he was only 4 years old. He'd be at the hospital or at the doctor's, and the doctor would tell him that his quirk seems to be interesting, something they haven't seen much of, but it seems like he has an affinity with so many different things, affinities with various different elements and affinities with various different abilities, and it seems as if he has the ability to create magic on a actual playing field, and it seems as if he has various amounts of it, various different versions of it, and it seems odd to think about, but he might be limitless in terms of power, limitless in terms of what he can do with his quirk. And he tells him to kind of keep things simple to start off with. Think about things that are very basic. Think about fire, think about ice, think about water, think about wind, all of these things. Think about these things and keep it simple for yourself, because when you're starting out, it's going to be very confusing. Everything that is going to happen to Izuku is going to be very confusing. So he's telling him to keep it somewhat simple so that he doesn't get overwhelmed by everything he possibly can do. So at the end of the day, he's going to kind of he wants Izuku to take things slow. Don't go insane and try to do some crazy magical ability and get yourself hurt. In which, of course, his mother, Inko Midoriya, is going to make sure that this doesn't happen too. She doesn't want her little baby to, get hurt in some sort of way or something to happen. Of course, she's going to make sure that he'll be all right and he'll be a-okay at the end of the day. That's exactly what they're going to be doing. Exactly what they're going to make sure of throughout this time. Now, with that said, though, Izuku continues his life kind of learning some things, figuring out some things, and kind of figuring out overall what can he do, what is he capable of, and all of the above. Like that's kind of all the things that Izuku is kind of figuring out at this moment, learning and figuring out various different abilities and things that he could really do / get into / figure out on his own. And Izuku is kind of figuring those things out as he goes and as things progress. And as all this is happening, as Izuku is actually starting to learn how to utilize his various versions of magic, this frost-like magic, this fire-like magic, and even this storm-like magic, and it includes like lightning, ice, and fire, of course, all three respectively. He starts kind of channeling these things, learning about these things. And when he goes to school, everybody really, really likes Izuku. I mean, he's a big man on campus in a way, right? Everybody really likes being around him. He's very, very popular. Same thing with Bakugo. And him and Bakugo, well, they have a somewhat decent relationship. Yeah, it's a competitive one, but it's not one that they're going to hate each other, or it's not one that Bakugo is going to basically hate Izuku or kind of look down on Izuku. That's not the case at all. Actually, this time around, it's quite the opposite. Izuku and him have really good mutual respect, and they're never going to look down on each other, and they're going to push each other to be even better, to get even stronger, and just prepare themselves even more. And as Izuku would progress himself, he would show his classmates what he can do, right? He's able to create fire with his, like at a snap of his fingers, right? Show off some inferno-like magic, right? And then on top of that, he kind of can start chanting these this kind of language that he basically he learned about and came up with, that basically grows the fire stronger. He can essentially utilize the fire in various different ways and even place the fire on different things and make it hurt or make it not hurt at all. But on top of that, there's so much more he can do. I mean, he has something he calls a frost sigil that allows him to kind of freeze anything. Basically, he touches while utilizing a glyph of some sort. So he's able to kind of summon these ice walls, some icy like winds, and freezing kind of things faster when he casts it with his hands. And all of these things kind of add up. I mean, the frost, the fire, and then even the storm, where he's able to basically summon lightning and utilize or even store this like electricity in everyday rings. But of course, rings and stuff like that for him are like magical rings, or like magical runes in a way that can store this energy and even store like the power of lightning. And that's something he does on a day-to-day basis, making sure that he has that power kind of in his arsenal. And as he goes about middle school and as he progresses through middle school, eventually that last day would show up. That last day would come, and he would be, listening to his teacher. His teacher would say yada yada yada. He knows that everybody wants to be a hero, and Izuku and Bakugo are trying to get into UA, and that is obviously the case. But there's not much else that happens there outside of when he leaves. He still is faced with the sludge villain, and this gives him an opportunity to try out his powers in general. And for starters, he immediately kind of puts a ice wall up that the sludge villain just slams into. He puts down the wall and begins to freeze the sludge villain with icy winds, and begins to shoot his stored electricity straight at the sludge villain via his rings that he has on his fingers. He stores quite a bit of them, so he has quite a bit of power kind of stored up in those rings, and he continues to kind of launch the power, the lightning at the sludge villain, and the sludge villain is getting torn to shreds. I mean, getting absolutely torn to shreds. And eventually Izuku would hear someone show up behind the sludge villain, so he would place kind of a wall of some sorts, like the ice wall. Once again, he would place that ice wall, and the punch would ring out, and All Might would slam the sludge villain into the ice wall, even breaking through it, and Izuku would get out of harm's way just in time so he doesn't get hit by the punch from All Might, not realizing that it actually is All Might. But he does see him after it is all said and done, and basically tells him like he's his biggest fan, he's he's his inspiration, he's this, he's that, and he's such a big fan of All Might and blah blah blah. And All Might's like, yeah, thank you. Like, it seems like you have much potential. You're able to hold your own. And he hopes that to see him, try out for UA. And Izuku's like, yeah, that's my plan. I'm gonna try out for UA. I want to be like you. I want to be the greatest hero ever. All right, I want to save everybody with a smile. And All Might smiles a little bit and thinks, you know what? That's great, kid. Like, I'm happy to hear that. And you have all the potential in the world. Just don't squander it. Don't squander that potential that you have deep down inside. Don't squander that potential that you could really kind of show people. And Izuku nods his head and is like, I won't. I promise. I won't squander my potential. I won't give up. I will push myself even further. And he asks for an autograph, and of course he gets that autograph. And Izuku's all he's thinking about the entire time is how can he be even more, or how can he even excel his own potential? What can he truly do to make himself even better? Now, obviously, for starters, when he starts this 10-month training, he immediately kind of stores up this electricity or this lightning within his rings, within his rings once again, right? That's what he does. And he does the same thing over and over again. Almost every day he makes sure to do this on the off chance that he needs it, or the off chance that he really needs the lightning that is embedded with his rings. Then he kind of gets the idea of maybe he could also embed some sort of magical effects, maybe magical bindings, illusions, or something like that to various different items. I mean, we're talking maybe swords, maybe hammers, maybe rings themselves. Maybe he can enchant them in a way, but he doesn't know. I mean, he has no idea what that would even mean. Could he enchant them? And he kind of tries it out. He tries some things on that idea, but he really can't figure it out. I mean, he even tries to figure out the idea of kind of creating glyphs or like runes that are embedded with kind of the either speed, strength, defense, or anything like that. like short-term or long-term effects that could potentially be used by him or potentially be used by other people. Some things that he really doesn't understand, only knowing the base level of stuff that he truly knows at the moment. But the next 10 months is for what this is supposed to be for. Now, for starters, he does come up with kind of like this big sigil, like a sigil of power of some sorts that he actually figured out from this idea of kind of weaving spells within armament, or weaving spells within runic imbuing, right? So he kind of figures those things out a little bit, creating this big circle that enhances the quirk of anybody who's in it, but it only enhances it for a short amount of time, and it's kind of a certain location. What he really wants to figure out is a rune, or a kind of like a weapon or like a tool that he could embed or imbue and give it to someone else, and that could make them even stronger. But this is the first step. He truly believes that this right here, a magic circle of kind of power, is truly the first step to him figuring that out specifically. After 10 months of doing these things, 10 months of honing his skills, and 10 months of kind of learning more and more, he didn't make insane progress, but his capabilities with his frost, with his storm, and with his inferno like magic is really, really high. Like, he's able to utilize it to a pretty damn good degree. So when he enters the fray of taking on the UA entrance exam, obviously the written portion isn't really affected by how strong he is, but the practical portion definitely is. And Izuku is able to basically light every single like robot on fire, immediately kind of creating this inferno that continues to spread to these various robots, destroying, melting, and even just incinerating almost every single robot that is in front of him. He continues to do that over and over and over again, all the way until he sees that a girl is trapped under rubble with a giant robot heading her way. He would immediately head that direction, and he would begin weaving and kind of like creating spells and thinking what would be the best course of action for him to utilize. He would immediately look toward the robot and try to basically strike down lightning on top of it, but even that doesn't necessarily work. He places down a sigil of power that basically allows the girl underneath to actually save herself, and he basically tells her this as the power is basically helping her quirk stabilize and be able to be utilized a lot better, and she's able to get out of harm's way, as Izuku would actually jump off and immediately create kind of like a sigil of some sorts that would allow him to boost off of as he runs away from this giant robot. And as he gets her out of harm's way and gets himself out of harm's way, she would obviously thank him, and this would end the UA entrance exam. Everybody is kind of in shock to see that Izuku was able to get her out, but some people, even some teachers, wonder what he even did. Like, did he really get her out, or did she just save herself and he kind of just stood there? Because they couldn't really see what was happening. They really couldn't understand. But Aizawa would jump in to confirm. He would confirm to the teachers and everybody else that is, well, with him watching, saying that the kid created some sort of magical, like, you know, circle of some sorts that granted the other girl, or the girl herself, the power to actually save herself. So yes, that was Izuku's kind of way of winning, and that was Izuku's kind of way to help her out of harm's way. And right there is something that everybody is pretty shocked to even see, wondering what the hell he exactly did. But not too long after that, he would obviously get his letter from UA, the letter that would tell him that he got into Class 1A, but also a letter that would tell him that he actually scored in the top 3. He's not number 1, but he did score pretty damn high. And this would excite Izuku. I mean, the fact that you score this high, the fact that you show this much potential is definitely something that excites him greatly. But before the first day of UA, Izuku actually meets up with Bakugo, showing him something and actually giving him something that he wanted to basically grant him and show him and tell him that it might work, it might not. If it doesn't, take it off. It doesn't make a difference. But he hands him a rune of some sorts. these runes are meant to basically be placed upon some sort of weapon. And he tells him those gauntlets that they talked about when they were younger, place these on them and it should make them better. Now, it could also do nothing, and if it does nothing, just throw them away. It doesn't make a difference. It's all hypothetical, and it's all something that he doesn't even know if for sure it will work. He pats Bakugo on the back and tells him he'll see him on the first day, and Bakugo would stop him and tell him that this little, like, trinket of whatever, like, to help him out doesn't prove that he's better than him. And Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says that that's never what it's been, and it's never what it's going to be like. Because just because he gave him, like a gift of some sorts to make him better, make him stronger, doesn't mean Izuku is going to not chase after the want and desire to basically be better than everyone else. He tells him that it's just a gift from a friend of his, and just leave it at that. He would leave, and not too long after, the first day of UA would come around, and Izuku would be put in a kind of a predicament to try his best to show off his powers or his quirk, but without actually utilizing it in specific ways. Because obviously when you're throwing a ball, it's a lot different than anything else, and it's not like he has some sort of gravity magic, at least maybe not right now, but he doesn't have anything like gravity magic that can throw this ball as far as possible. Especially after seeing Bakugo throw it as far as he did, he wants to kind of show off, but he doesn't know what to do. So he decides to create his sigil of power. He decides to kind of utilize something, right? A little bit extra, to put a little bit of extra like oomph on it, at least on the fly or on the throw. And he even kind of tries to create something that would be like a magical circle that would allow, him to launch the ball further throughout the air, or make the ball float / make him float. Like, that is something he's done before. And he chucks the ball as far as possible, but it definitely doesn't go as far as the way Bakugo threw it, or as far as Bakugo threw it in the first place. And yes, he's like, damn, like, I wish I would have thrown it further, but it doesn't change the fact that he did pretty good. I mean, it's not like he didn't do, or he did bad by any means. Throwing the ball pretty far itself, especially without any inherent advantage, I mean, it's pretty damn impressive. And when we start talking about and going on to, like, his speed, his overall strength and various other things, he scores pretty high, like at least in the top 5, bare minimum the top 10. But of course, he doesn't really pop off the page like some of these other people may, right? He doesn't pop off the page the way some of these other people may pop off the page because of how well or how good they are at one thing, or how good they are at two things. These are the type of things that Izuku is thinking about, but still, he shows off his capabilities. He shows off what he's capable of, and he really gives everybody a decent run for their money. And let's just say everyone's kind of in awe of Izuku, even though he didn't get like some insane scores like overall. He still did extremely well, and he still kind of showed off like that he is really, really capable of so much, and he's really capable of kind of doing everything to a high degree. Now, after it is all said and done, after they're done with the quirk assessment and all that stuff, obviously Aizawa was like, yeah, no one's getting expelled. Don't worry about all that, like yada, yada, yada. And of course, this would lead them to kind of pushing the eventual like next training session, which would obviously be with All Might. All Might with the whole bomb and the heroes and this and that. And honestly, this is kind of perfect for Izuku to really show off what he can do. Because when Izuku and Ochako team up to go against Bakugo and Tenya Ida, his first idea to basically touch the bomb is to grab the bomb or touch the bomb without even like any interaction, without any kind of messing with the other heroes or even messing with Tenya or Bakugo. So what does he do? Well, he utilizes some of that electricity he has to overload kind of the electrical things inside the building, knocking out all the lights and stuff like that. And then he utilizes a powered up Ochako quirk or gravity quirk to kind of have them kind of move around and kind of utilize his own quirk to kind of make his ability to make kind of steps in the air, or an ability to kind of make it so that he has like this magical circle creation that allows him to either float, or kind of helps him not go all the way to the sky with Ochako's quirk. And eventually they do come across where the bomb is. They would immediately go through that window with his quirk, or part of his quirk, and that would be burning the window, literally in like Inferno, snapping his fingers. He's able to immediately burn a hole through the window, shattering the glass, and then they would walk through, touch the bomb, and Tenya wouldn't even be able to react in time to stop them from doing so. After this is all said and done, yes, Bakugo is pissed, yes, Bakugo is annoyed, but he knows that Izuku and this, like his powers, his quirk, this is where he thrives. This is where Izuku Midoriya thrives and gets better and all this stuff. And that's exactly what Izuku is really capable of. And yeah, he's not going to want to just get into a firefight. He's not going to just, all right, yeah, let me just fight. Let me just battle. Let me just do whatever. Just for the sake of fighting. Of course, he's not going to do that. That is not what Izuku is good at, or the best at. And he's going to make sure that he uses every little ability to his advantage. And this is the same idea that will continue on, especially when we go to rescue like training at the USJ. Because the USJ, it's going to be a perfect time for Izuku to kind of show off. To show off that his abilities during rescue are just as good, right? Just as good, if not honestly better than your kind of like typical things. He's able to kind of raise people up with like different like midair platforms, spell circles in the air. He's able to use sigil of powers to help his team be stronger and this and that. And then on top of that, he has so much other stuff that would allow people to get out of harm's way, or even kind of maybe even start up generators with electricity and this and that, and so much more that Izuku is truly capable of. And he wants to show that off at this USJ, or this rescue facility. But unfortunately, he would not get that chance, at least not in that way, because villains would show up, the League of Villains, and immediately send them through a portal, sending them elsewhere, sending him towards a kind of a lake of some sorts with Asui and Mineta. Izuku would immediately kind of get himself out of the water, utilizing a platform he makes himself, and allowing him to push that platform so that he basically can fly in a way, but he kind of moves or utilizes the platform to push him upward, and he gets out of harm's way, and then also meets up with Mineta and also Asui on a ship or on a boat nearby, like a yacht like boat. And as all this is happening, as all this is occurring, he basically says like they have a couple options. He could freeze the lake, get them stuck there and they should be all right. He could freeze over just like that top layer. So, I mean, they could breathe underwater, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. He could also shock it, and that would most likely hurt them badly, might even kill them, so probably not the best option. And he says some other stuff like he could also just fly over, but then they would have to deal with them in general. And she basically says, Asui's like, maybe it's best if we just freeze it. And Izuku nods his head and places like both of his hands on the yacht itself. And she asks, like, you don't have to touch the water? And Izuku's like, not necessarily. As long as it reaches, then it should be good. And he begins to spread this like frost all around the water and all around this lake. And it makes a pretty thick layer on top of the water, making it so that nobody or none of the villains could even get out. They immediately would utilize kind of like the sigils or his like magical platforms to jump across with Asui. And as they're jumping across, they kind of get out of harm's way and meet up with the rest of their class and meet up with kind of everyone else. And Izuku is thinking that they have to do something. I mean, Aizawa's out there fighting on his own, and it seems like he's slowing down just as he basically just defeats the rest of the minor villains. And on top of that, there's this other giant creature that it seems like they're going to have to be dealing with, a giant creature that really, really makes him question if Aizawa can handle himself. And before you know it, his questioning would come reality, because the Nomu would come out of nowhere and smack Aizawa on the face, sending him flying. But Izuku would be able to catch him just before he slams into the wall, creating a barrier, even slowing him down in a way. And Izuku was able to save him and get him out of harm's way, creating a wall of ice to kind of block off the Nomu just for the moment. And he would then kind of create some sort of magical power, a circle as well, a sigil of power, and also kind of like an enchantment or kind of like a spell weaving magical effect that heals Aizawa just a little bit. Aizawa is just healed enough to where he could definitely utilize his quirk within the sigil of power, but he can't really like go and fight the way he was fighting. But utilizing his quirk should be just good enough, in which Izuku kind of holds off not only the Nomu, but also holds off Shigaraki and Kurogiri just with various spells. I mean, he's utilizing them in a more defensive way, not like an offensive way, creating fire, explosions, and even ice and stuff like that, icy winds to slow down the battlefield. And eventually he kind of slows things down to the point where they can't really do anything effectively. And eventually Izuku would see the one person they've been waiting for show up, and that is All Might. All Might shows up with an absolute will to win, and he begins to clash with the Nomu. Luckily, Aizawa is still good to go in terms of canceling the quirk of Shigaraki and these other people. So he's able to handle that for the most part, and luckily some other students and stuff like that are there to fend off Shigaraki and also Kurogiri, so that All Might has a fight with that Nomu by himself. But Izuku doesn't allow him to just do it by himself, as he begins to create a sigil of power surrounding only All Might, kind of creating this sense of power that begins to surge through All Might. All Might is in shock to feel that his power is growing and getting better and stronger, leading to him actually defeating the Nomu a lot quicker than normal, and even putting him down to the point where like he's completely gone. Like the Nomu is obliterated, and Shigaraki is in complete and utter shock and is about to tell Kurogiri to get them out of there, but he sees that he's now basically covered in ice almost, or he's getting covered in ice, and well, it seems as if Bakugo is there on top of Kurogiri, and Kurogiri is unable to actually utilize his own quirk, and he's in shock, like, wait, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And it's all because of the runes. The runes that are within the gauntlets of Bakugo, the gauntlets that he actually brought along because he felt like, you never know, this could be important and could be useful in this scenario. He brought them along for a reason. And that's the truth, because the runes that Izuku put in there are affecting the quirk of Kurogiri and are making it so he no longer can even utilize the quirk that he's trying to basically use. And right here is something that Izuku is like in shock about, that he thinks that he didn't know it was going to work that good. I mean, it was just all hypothetical, but luckily enough, it definitely did. They would then eventually freeze over Shigaraki, eventually subdue Kurogiri, and the Nomu would be out for the count, as Aizawa would kind of utilize his quirk to make sure things went fully smoothly. And as all this happened, as all this occurred, the villains would be captured, and the villains would be ready to be put behind bars, as many other heroes would show up, and then many other heroes would stop the villains from even attempting to escape, and they would be put behind bars before you know it, because it seems like the act of Izuku not even knowing exactly his own potential is something that not even All For One and the League of Villains were able to predict, at least not to the degree that they needed to. Because at the end of the day, when you were given a kind of sheet of what these quirks somewhat do, and you just hear that someone has a magic quirk, you don't really think that he can do certain things or do the things that he eventually showed off or showed everyone that he could do. And he continues to show his capabilities, especially as they enter the UA Sports Festival. And the UA Sports Festival is a time to really give off every little bit, every tidbit that you are capable of. Every tiny inch that you can climb, show it here so that everybody can watch in awe. And yes, Izuku might not be giving the speech, but when the sirens would go off and it would be ready to go forward, and the first chance he would get would be through an obstacle course race, I mean, he would give it his absolute all, charging forward, jumping over various people, utilizing his like magical kind of like jumps, or his magical kind of like steps he kind of creates. And as he kind of gets ahead of the curve in terms of that, he kind of gets pretty high up there in a rank in the obstacle course race. He doesn't get number 1, but he does get like number, top 3, top 5 pretty easily. Izuku's team of Ochako, Tokiyami, and Meihatsume in the next round would easily win because of his ability to create kind of ice walls, or even create kind of shields of some sorts through these magical circle-like creations. And he's able to create these shields, make these ice walls, and protect everybody from kind of like, getting attacked or getting their headbands stolen and all that stuff. And it seems like Izuku's ability just kind of goes through the roof. I mean, his capabilities overall are being shown and displayed at a very, very high level. And it seems as if they continue to be shown to this degree throughout the entirety of the cavalry battle. But as they enter that next battle, or that next 1 versus 1, is when Izuku really gets to kind of try out and really gets to show off the degree that he truly believes he's at. And that is when he faces off with various other hard hitters. But before he faces off with any of them, he faces off with Hitoshi Shinso and a quirk that would surprise him and almost get him eliminated. He would be completely brainwashed to walk off, but luckily he created magical kind of like a magical steps or magical blocks of some sorts that allows him to basically kind of stay put, right? Allows him to stay good and stay ready and stay whatever the entire time, and stay kind of from actually touching the outside. And luckily enough, he's able to do that, and he's able to stay away from actually touching the ground. So when his magical kind of magical circles keep him from doing so, Shinso doesn't know what to do. He goes to try to push Izuku off, but this would wake him up, and he would then counterattack. Izuku immediately would freeze the ground that Shinso is standing on, and he would essentially slide him directly off, and even send him flying with a kind of with any kind of power he possibly can, utilizing even a magical like shield in a way, like just a circle, like a magical circle, pushing him directly off. And as Shinso gets pushed off and then lands on the ground, he's obviously disappointed, but Izuku says himself that he got very lucky, that he prepared himself, right? He had more things prepared and like potentially ready for an eventual kind of like, mistake by himself. And he obviously did not want a mistake, and that's exactly what Izuku prepared for. He prepared for the idea that he would make a mistake, and this would set him up for another fight, a fight against Shoto Todoroki. And this right here would be an interesting one, where they go clash and 1-for-1, and they go basically clashing against each other. And Izuku goes head-to-head with his ice powers, and Izuku faces him with all the fire he can muster, and it gives him quite an advantage that Todoroki can't really keep up with. And on top of that, Izuku continues to like overwhelm him with various different abilities, and Izuku even utilizes kind of like this sigil of power like thing, or like area, that grants him even more power, even more strength, and even more firepower that slows down Todoroki. And eventually Izuku is trying to goad out the firepower, but he does it in a way that Todoroki doesn't actually eventually listen, because it's not kind of heroic. It's very like you're not going to beat me. If you want to beat me, then you got to utilize everything. You got to utilize everything like I do. You got to channel the power, channel the strength. He's like, he's basically calling him selfish, for not showing him the fight he wants. But this doesn't get the most out of Todoroki, and it leads to Todoroki not utilizing his fire side, at least for now, as Izuku would utilize his fire and create a giant kind of wall of it, a giant firewall that he would begin chanting and this kind of language that nobody understands, as the fire would engulf Todoroki entirely, shoving him and moving him directly out, as he would be slightly singed. But of course Izuku would come over and just get rid of all the singe marks and stuff like that in one foul swoop, saying that his fire is a lot different. His fire doesn't come from the body, doesn't come out of basically a pure like Quirk strength. No, the fire he creates comes from like magical abilities and comes from a different state of mind and a different plane field. And that's exactly why he's able to do what he does. And luckily enough, he's able to do so Todoroki doesn't, leave here with some scars. Now, with all that said, though, his fight with Tenya Ida would be very lackluster. Being able to utilize the ability of ice-like magic, he's able to shut down Tenya Ida, and able to shut down his speed, leading him to eventually fighting off with his best friend, the one he used to call Kachan, Katsuki Bakugo. And as he faces off with him once again, Bakugo is going to give it his absolute all, and that goes the same for Izuku Midoriya. He gives it his absolute all. He's not holding back. He's not doing anything that would basically make it seem as if he's not trying his absolute best. He's using his fire. He's using his ice. He's using every last bit of lightning he possibly can muster, utilizing his sigil of power to make him stronger, and trying everything in his power to really kind of make himself that much better and make himself that much more capable. And eventually, it seems as if Bakugo would have the upper hand. Bakugo would have the upper hand on Izuku, and Izuku would get hit with one giant explosion, an explosion that was unavoidable, an explosion that he couldn't do anything about, and he would get sent onto the turf, sent onto the grass, and got immediately thrown out of the ring. And Izuku, well, he would lay there looking at Bakugo, looking up at him, and Bakugo would stand toward the edge and laugh at him, saying that he did it. He proved to him that he's the best. And Izuku would look at him and say, "Yeah, you're right. I proved it the entire time." In which Bakugo's like, "What the hell are you?" And he looks at Izuku and he would disappear. That version, or that person that was on the ground, wasn't Izuku. The one the really Izuku is still standing in the ring and pushes Bakugo directly out. And the entire audience, the teachers and everybody watching, that's what they saw. They saw Bakugo actually looking, staring, and talking to nobody. And it was an illusion that was only in the eyes of Bakugo, an illusion that he couldn't even kind of get rid of in his head. And he can't believe that he got tricked. He can't believe that just happened. He can't believe it. He doesn't know how, he doesn't know when, he doesn't know what even occurred truly, but all he knows is that he lost. He lost to Izuku, and he got lost because of a damn freaking trick. And this would lead to Izuku standing on top, Izuku being the number one in the first years, and obviously winning the UA Sports Festival, and everybody cheers his name. And Bakugo, well, he's pretty pissed, but at least he has that respect for Izuku. And yes, it's going to be hard to swallow the idea that he got second place, but at the same time, he knows that Izuku is very, very capable. So if he's going to lose to anybody, he guesses losing to him ain't so bad. But with that said, Izuku would have some other choices to get into very, very soon. And those choices would definitely include his future agency that he wants to go work with, and his future agency that he would do for his internship. Now, he has some choices, some interesting choices. but none of them really like jump off the page. He doesn't have the fame, the fortune that someone like Todoroki has. And a lot of the people that we're watching, it's hard to tell what he's doing. It's very confusing. They don't really understand exactly what Izuku is capable of. But at the same time, Izuku still wants a chance to work with the best. And before you know it, he would get that opportunity. An opportunity to actually work with one of the best. And that would be Best Jeanist. And yes, it's a high-ranking hero. Yes, it's this, it's that. Funny enough, he would actually go and work with Bakugo as well, being that Bakugo actually made this choice. Bakugo decided to go work with Best Jeanist as well, and they both learned some very, very good, very, very interesting aspects of hero work that they truly needed to learn. And that's exactly what they're capable, exactly what they're going to do, and exactly what basically they wanted to get into. And with Izuku there, Bakugo's a little bit more tame, a little bit more understanding, and figures things out a lot better, learning, training, and so much more, feeding off each other. And Best Jeanist, there's a reason why he invited both of them, because he believed that both of them being friends and rivals will make them that much better. And he explains to Izuku various ways he could help outside of just being a strong hero, outside of his typical storm, frost, and inferno-like magic that he's showing off. He showed off his illusions. He's sure that he can do so much more. Maybe there's spell weaving in there that he can do, and he even explains to Best Jeanist that yeah, he can make enchantments and do things like that, in which Best Jeanist is thinking, good, that's what he wants to hear. Be creative, because it seems like your quirk is only bound by your creativity, and it will only stop when you stop thinking of how to get better, how to get stronger, and how to be more capable. And that's all of what Best Jeanist really drags on with him and really shows him and tells him so much. And he says that sometimes you aren't going to be the focal point, but sometimes when others are the focal point, you're the reason why they are. In which he tells him this, obviously with Bakugo not there, because Bakugo would absolutely lose his shit if he heard him say that. But that's the truth. And Izuku believes that to be the case 100% now, hearing it from Best Jeanist, and believes it to be the case in general now. And of course, this helps Izuku really understand, really realize so much more, really realize everything that he possibly can do, and realize everything that he's truly capable of. And after it all is said and done, after everything is continuously going in the direction of Izuku and Bakugo, and the training continues to kind of amp up, unfortunately it's cut short. And the reason why it is cut short is saddening. A sad moment for UA, and a sad moment for heroes and teachers alike. The sad moment would be that Tenya Ida would be killed during an internship, and it would send everybody from UA back to their classrooms in a huff, and then send them back into their classrooms with pure silence. They would sit there knowing there was more to do, and Aizawa would even cut through the silence before you know it and tell them that he's sad too. They all should be, but this shouldn't be a reason why they quit. This should be a reason why they push even harder. And that right there gets them awake enough, and basically they tell them, or he tells all of them, that they should follow where Tenya Ida made mistakes. They should hold it tightly and make sure they don't make those same mistakes, and hold it tightly and make sure that they can really kind of bring the name of Tenya to the outlook of being a hero. Just because he can no longer be that hero, they can all still hold his name tightly and become the hero themselves. So he tells them to wipe the tears, mourn for the day, but train the next and prepare for the very next day, being that the very next day they would be going into their final exams, the final exams that would include so much more, the final exams that would include obviously a written portion, but a practical that they will truly never forget, especially when Izuku and Bakugo, the best of friends and rivals alike, would take on the #1 hero, All Might. But that is going to have to wait for the next and final part of What If Deku Had a Magic Quirk. And if you guys enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.